What's your status on the apparatus? Puncho today with Cancel Kings, and we're going to just jump right into it. Elon Musk has began a protest of Netflix, saying that Netflix should be canceled based off of gay content that is being focused towards children and LGBT trans content, to be more specific. Let's take a look at it, Kaz.
When you're trying to decide, think about all the things you like to do. Just be you.
Just be me.
Now, I think this is Coco Melon, where this kid has two fathers, and they're telling him to just be himself. As a result, he goes on and puts on a tiara and a dress and begins to dance for his two gay fathers. Continuing.
My name is Charles. I stand up for my pronouns. I'm the ghost girl.
Young kid talking about his pronouns.
Reporting from the wedding of the year. Everyone's favorite karate instructor, Sensei Dave, will be marrying mixed martial arts champion Jiu-Jitsu Joe.
He's the undisputed champion of my heart.
Two gay wrestlers or fighters are marrying each other, and the children are brought in to help put together his wedding or their wedding. This is, again, 7 years old plus.
Oh, now let's get ready to romance!
I can't wait for my mom to feast her eyes on this.
I'm trans, Norma. And everyone at school knows, and everyone at home knows. And being here, it's like a whole new place.
This is a young man who runs away from his grandmother's house because she's closed-minded. And he goes to this haunted house or this haunted environment where he opens up about being trans, and in the process, his dog gets possessed by a demon and begins to improve their relationship.
I can just be Barney, and I can choose if and when I tell people. I've never been happier, and that's saying something when I spent today chased by terrifying zombie mascots. It honestly reminded me how important it is to live your life without apology. So I think I gotta give living here a shot, don't you?
You don't need my permission. I just wouldn't want Courtney as a roommate.
I think that his friend is also non-binary.
We'll be the best of friends.
The school totally customizes our rooms for us. So cozy. I'm Frankie. Pronouns they, them. I'm only 15 days old. Hi, Claudine. She, her. Nice to meet ya. My full name is Frankie Stein. I was just created by my parents, but not in the way that others are created by their parents, like werewolves. I was actually made
Introducing pronouns and alternative lifestyles to children.
in a lab using some of the...
And this broke my heart. They even got Transformers. They got Optimus Prime going on about pronouns. Let's listen.
Nightshades pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
My apologies. Please switch their piece. Now, the plan.
Jurassic Park. 7-year-olds, yet again, are watching this, and they are entertained by a side plot where I suppose that the two female characters have fallen in love with each other and they're kissing on screen. That doesn't happen with straight teen television or children television, but it does apparently happen with LGBTQIA plus entertainment. Strawberry shortcake.
Correct response. Like cotton candy clouds floating in a blue sky.
Isn't that the gay flag or the trans flag there, the colors?
Banafi will slide that runway.
Trans character graces the runway with his new look.
Tell us why you chose this delicious dress. As a transberry, I love living
And of course, he's African American.
out loud as my most authentic self. And I wanted to dress as bold and unique as I am, which, let's face it, is a tall order. When you try.
And we're starting over. What do you think, Kaz? Brave New World or what? This is your first time seeing all this.
Yes, I was not aware. You know, I have a stance when it comes to children's entertainment, in that I prefer to let children be children. You
So
know,
if the child wants to be trans, they can just be trans.
no, that's not what I'm saying. More so in the guidelines of you know, specifically seeing Transformers, right?
Mm.
It's you know, that's a show I grew up with as a kid, and you know, Optimus Prime, obviously, you know, he's Optimus Prime, right? You know, leader, heroine, or hero of the Autobots, and I never saw it being, I guess, you know, he, she, they, them, her. You know, it was a kid's show, and it stayed far away from societal views or
Well,
time.
they did have social themes in there about how to be better citizens, be better kids, but it never dealt with sexuality. You know?
Exactly. And that's my thing. It's like, it's one thing to teach someone how to be good, how to be bad, you know, the basic construct of humanity. That, to me, children should learn about that. But when you
Yeah.
start to impress, especially in this day and age, controversial societal views
Yeah.
into children's entertainment, it's like they don't even deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So why are they dealing with it in an environment where they should be free, you know, to have creativity flow and to just enjoy something for what it is?
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
look at it and I'm like, I don't understand why a 7-year-old has to be introduced to sexuality.
exactly. That's my thing.
Why is this? And the reoccurring theme we see in a lot of these clips, especially with the younger children that they're trying to connect with, is you may not know who you are. That must mean there's a question with your sexuality. And more than likely, it means you being the opposite sex, drag queens and transsexual cross-dressing and all that. The one scene that was really troubling, and I'm sure that the people who wrote it in their mind thought it was perfectly fine, is the young kid. He has to be every bit of about 5 or 4 years old. I don't know how old the kid is in the Coco Melon thing. Being encouraged by his parents to wear whatever he wants. He has like a boy's hat, and then he chooses the tiara, and then puts on a dress and starts to dance, cross dressing in this cross dressed dance in front of his two fathers. That is that's bizarre, and I think it kind of comes close to like what this video is alluding to, is that there's maybe some kind of grooming thing going on. It just seems a little bit bizarre to me, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. And of course, we're going to get to the second part of this, where Elon Musk is full-throatedly trying to boycott a lot of this material. As you know, Elon's child, one of his children, by the recommendation of his doctors, said that he needed to transition to the opposite sex in order to keep him from taking his own life. That turned out to not be true, and Elon Musk has been on a bit of a rampage ever since and going against the trans agenda. This article from Breitbart, not the most very interesting source, but Netflix stocks take biggest weekly drop since April as trans content aimed at children drives users away. Now, I'll give full transparency here. I stopped dealing with Netflix back when it had the whole cuties controversy. These are literally little 11 and 12-year-old girls booty shaking in front of the camera doing sexually charged dances, and Netflix stood by this series full-throated. Like they just stood by it. And I ended up canceling my account with Netflix back then. Haven't reinstated it again, but you know, I have friends that have been talking about Netflix series. And I'm like, everything seems to be of a homosexual twist in Netflix. What's going on? And I kind of never, you know, I still haven't, you know, created a new subscription, and maybe for the better. What do you think? Are you where are you at with all this stuff?
With myself personally, when it comes to and primarily because I'm writing a story right now with my friends. One thing that we noticed when it comes to the production of a lot of shows nowadays is that they're not choosing people who have a passion for the content that is being created. They're choosing people.
Yeah. Oh man, you about to get me on a tangent with that one.
But it's just they're choosing people who just feel as though this is how the story should be, rather than staying true to the content itself. Again, going back to Transformers and seeing that, I'm like, this has nothing to do with what Transformers is about. Transformers is about alien robots coming down to Earth to fight against the Decepticons, heroic acts, battle scene fights and things like that. And when you start to spill over into, controversial societal topics, or, just anything.
Sexualized topics.
Yeah, sexualized topics.
Children. I mean, I just can't get over that part.
Yeah. And for me, it's, I just don't feel like there's any more care about what things are anymore in their natural state. And now there's this push, to make things that once stood for one thing to just completely jump over the bridge. And
well, you mentioned a good point. And, I'm a bit of a geek, in case people haven't figured that out by now. And I love comic books. I grew up on that when I was a young man, and probably a self-proclaimed expert on it. And we were so excited to see our favorite comic book characters coming into live action. But at some point, that geek culture and that movement was kind of hijacked by radical people that were in control of movie production. They didn't have very much knowledge about these characters, but they were the ones that now were writing the stories, since Disney and a lot of other folks, kicked those people out that were, the gatekeepers of these stories. And now you have weird things in the comic book movies where, like you said before, they just have been stripped of their soul, and they've been given this alternative way of depicting themselves. And it just doesn't work. Then you start having the fandom menace, which takes over and has this big uproar in comic culture and geek culture. Everything just turned to, girl power at the expense of men. And everything turned into LGBTQIA plus stuff. I mean, you can just go down the line. You got Thor replaced with female Thor, Captain America being replaced with female Captain America, Hawkeye, Hulk to She-Hulk. Every single major character has had a female reboot. And a lot of those stories have never been popular with comic book characters. And then it went just beyond the females. And they weren't unpopular because they were women, but because they were poorly written by the same people who are promoting a lot of this stuff. And now you see the same thing happening with children's cartoons. Rainbow Bright, which is a legacy project. Transformers, a legacy project. And what is Optimus Prime talking about pronouns for? Absolutely weird. Let's take a look at this article and go from there. Continuing with what was being discussed here. So we have here, talks about Netflix shares being slumped again. And again, this is all from Elon Musk having this tremendous push. Some of these older cartoons, some of them 2 or 3 years old. A major exodus of subscribers. And we have here the stock dropped nearly 5% over the 5-day trading period ending before the weekend, as billionaire Tesla CEO Elon Musk continued to urge consumers to boycott the streaming giant. As Breitbart News reported, Netflix has been struggling as it chooses to stream animated programs that expose small children to homosexuality, gay kisses, and a little boy in a dress prancing around for his gay dads. And we're surprised that these people are losing money. Who even greenlit these shows? Here's Elon Musk on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying cancel Netflix for the health of your kids. And keep in mind, this is personal for him because it happened to his child. Going from those designers tech or post here, he has a picture of Netflix here with a Trojan horse that has transgender woke agenda hidden inside of it, and they're letting them into Troy to have an impact on your kids. Thoughts on any of that?
I think personally, the depiction is it's a pretty good one, because the Trojan horse is covering it with, things that people love. And, the first time a parent sees Transformers, they're going to think, oh, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, the same thing with all the Marvel and also the Star Wars and the LucasArts stuff with Indiana Jones. Like, you're expecting to see these legacy characters, these stories that you can share with your son or daughter. And then next thing you know, you see the main characters being humiliated In many cases, they're pushing gay stuff behind the scenes, or sometimes just overtly a part of. And it's like, this is not the stuff that I grew up on. What happened to the real storytelling and the real writing? Thoughts?
And I agree. And I think the biggest thing is, what is the purpose? You know, whenever I watch something and I see a scene that, you know, is either LGBTQ fueled, or, you know, there's some transgender you know, ideology in it, I always think, you know, especially being a writer, what is the purpose of including this particular scene in the story?
Yeah.
Does it,
How does it speak to the story?
yeah,
Exactly.
like, does it take away? Does it? And most of the time, it does. There's no purpose of it. If you took it out, the story would still be the story. And I think that's what's getting me.
Well, I think about the Thor movie, right? I think it was the last Thor movie that he had, or maybe it was a compilation from another movie. And Valkyrie, who is the black female leader of, or the last surviving member of the Valkyrie, she becomes, you know, the queen of Asgard, New Asgard. And it just happens to be that she's gay. Like, they have to throw that in there. You know, first of all, Thor's not focusing, so he's a side, and she becomes the new queen, fair enough, but why does she got to be gay? Why are we pushing all this weird stuff into these movies? And you even had Snoop Dogg, you know, having to explain to, you know, his grandchild that these two characters are kissing. He's like, why is this stuff in here? And who could be more liberal than Snoop Dogg? But it's all fun and games, and so you have to explain it to a child, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Appreciate your contribution to the show today. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments. Anything that you want to discuss, we'll be there in the comments right there with you guys. And like, share, and subscribe. We're not getting a lot of this information out from a Christian perspective, which is what we come from. So be sure to get this out to people that you may know and that may be interested in this kind of content. And we will catch you guys later.